Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Poynter Institute celebration of journalism. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jeff Cowan, and I'm going to be your MC tonight as we honour the free press, democracy, and the esteemed career of Lesley Stahl, all while supporting the Poynter Institute for its mission to elevate the craft of journalism for those who create it and for people like us who depend on it. A free press is essential to our democratic way of life. Independent, factual information enriches communities and helps us make decisions in our daily lives. Tonight, we will see that when facts prevail, we are better informed, we are more connected, and our democracy is strengthened. Before we get started, I'd like to express gratitude to tonight's sponsors for their support. To our First Amendment sponsors, Hearst Red Apple Group, we appreciate your commitment to Poynter's mission, year in and year out. And to our democracy and freedom sponsors, CBS, Bryan Communications, and Duke Energy, thank you for your generosity. And to our whopping 18 true sponsors, we appreciate your show of support for Poynter's work. As you're seeing here on the screen, all of these sponsors, all of these brands did not hesitate when we asked them to help out, and we thank you sincerely for your incredible help. We'd like to thank our VIP guests and friends of Poynter, ticket holders, to everyone who has or will purchase raffle tickets and make a donation tonight. We thank you. Folks, you're in for a lively evening filled with moments that we will recognise the importance of journalism. You'll have the opportunity to purchase tickets for one of our 5 incredible raffle items. So, let me tempt you. First of all, now there's only a few of these. In fact, I was having a look on my device, and I was having a look at this. There's fewer than 10 right now, the bourbon basket. Now, there's 5 bottles in here, anywhere between $99 and $239. Some of the highlights here, Whistle Pig 12-year-old and 15-year-old single barrel. The Westland Cariana, valued at $159. But again, fewer than 10 tickets. And can I tell everybody, it's only $50 a ticket and 50 tickets per prize. In this case, the California Cabs, $79 to $159. The Silver Oak from Napa at $159. The Camus Napa, $109, or the Orange Swift Mercury at $129. And then why don't we skirt around the globe with the wines of the world? Opus One Napa coming in at $369. Remember, it's a ticket. Only one ticket's going to win this. Dune Vineyards of Napa, $109. Now, I was going to talk about the Mazzaro box, beautiful gift card, but it's gone. It's already sold out. So if you got one of those, hang on to it with both hands, because we're going to be celebrating and telling you who the winner is in the moment. And then get ready for this. The Straz has come to the party. 4 tickets the opening night, which is in April 2022. Access for the guests to the Bravo Club, and an amazing value there. Ladies and gentlemen, pick up a raffle ticket or 2 is easy. Simply click on your Instabuy. So if you've got your device right now, you go to the thing, you'll see Instabuy. Go ahead and click on that, and I'll announce the raffle winners at the end of tonight's program. Again, remember, there's only 50 chances to win, and there's not that many right now, so please know. So hurry up and get those tickets now before they are gone. If you're tuning in on social media and want to participate in tonight's fundraising activity, please text Poynter, P-O-Y-N-T-E-R, to 72727 to purchase raffle tickets and make a contribution to the non-profit Poynter Institute's mission to improve journalism and fact-based expression. Together, we can ensure that the information ecosystem is more factual, credible, and trustworthy. It's time to begin our celebration. Let's head over to Poynter's Washington, D.C. location and welcome Senior Advisor and Faculty Member Joey Chen with our first toast of the evening. Joey.
Hello and welcome to Poynter DC's and PolitiFact's new home in Washington, D.C. We're now here in the Arizona State University's Washington campus, right alongside the Cronkite School's newsroom here. Tonight, let's raise our glasses to the women who've broken through the glass ceiling of the journalism industry.
To the women who make their voices heard through the noise.
To the women who hold the door for others to walk through. To the women who stand in solidarity and demand more.
To our guest of honor, the legendary Lesley Stahl, whose achievements over 5 decades in this industry helped pave the way for all of us as women journalists, and whose lifetime achievement helped set the stage for 2021 to be a landmark year for women in media. to those celebrating new roles, to those who paved the way for other women to achieve, and to tonight's honored guest, Lesley Stahl. Salute.
Salute, indeed. Let's raise a glass to our friends at Poynter who happen to be hosting their Signature Leadership Academy for Women in Media this week. The third such session this year where 31 women will join the nearly 500 alumna of the program. Thank you to Poynter for all you do to elevate women and journalists of colour. Cheers. Well, that's quite nice. Of course, it's been a remarkable year in news. Over and over, it's been journalists who've helped us understand what's really going on. The events of 2021 remind us of how fragile democracy is, why we need journalism and journalists to keep democracy healthy and strong. Let's take a look back at what we learned from the news this year.
Hi, I'm Norm Macdonald, and this is the news.
The FDA has given Pfizer the green light to distribute its COVID vaccine.
If we all stay vigilant, it could lead to more moments like these.
Blasting the world's first all-civilian crew into orbit.
We're going to be seeing a rotating cast of guest hosts.
We got the Stanley Cup with the Lightning, the Bucks, Super Bowl champions.
And Lydia Jacoby is going to win gold.
This is a TikTok trend going viral.
The Costa friends.
They are, of course, cicadas. Be curious, not judgmental. I like that.
A giant container ship is blocking the Suez Canal.
Security camera video from the adjacent building captured the moment of the collapse.
A cyber attack has forced a major energy pipeline in the U.S. to shut down operations.
In New Orleans, debris and downed trees litter the streets.
This is going to be the hottest that's ever been experienced in human history.
The city of Houston brought to its knees. Millions still without power or water.
Law banning transgender girls from playing on female sports teams.
New election law now in effect in Georgia.
This morning, Texas taking center stage in the debate over abortion rights.
President Jovenel Moise was assassinated early this morning.
Israel and Hamas agreed to cease fire across the border.
They are crying out for freedom in the streets of Havana.
It's time to end America's longest war.
This is what desperation looks like. Afghans clambering over each other to get a flight to anywhere.
20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks.
President Biden today will sign a bill officially making Juneteenth our 12th federal holiday.
We still, of course, know that 6 of the victims who died were Asian.
We're fighting two battles here, the pandemic and also the hate crimes.
Sarah Everard's story has struck a chord. There have been nearly 700 missing Indigenous women.
Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women.
Leaving prison a free man.
My reports of abuse were not only buried by USAG, USOPC, but they were also mishandled by federal law enforcement officers.
In reality, she can make none of her own decisions.
I was silent. Were you silent or were you silenced?
Wasn't in the right headspace to compete and withdrew to protect herself.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant
guilty of second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter in the death of George Floyd and leaving the courtroom in handcuffs.
I've been texting and communicating with many of the protesters, and they said that it was like a weight had been lifted off of their shoulders. This is one step on the path of justice.
There is no pandemic amongst children.
Lady is misinformed or she is lying.
I will be telling both my boys not to wear masks.
Mass implant Americans with microchips, not true.
Put a horse deworming medicine in their bodies.
Vaccine causing swollen testicles, that's not a thing.
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram have become the primary super spreaders of misinformation in our world.
I don't trust that they're willing to actually invest to keep Facebook from being dangerous.
So-called audit has now concluded that Joe Biden won.
Remaining silent and ignoring the lie emboldens the liar.
For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down
to the Capitol. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Hey, this guy's with the media! This guy's with the media! Everybody stay down! Get down!
So you know, recall thinking to myself, this is how I'm going to die.
Storm the Capitol building! Look at this!
Good evening. I'm Neil Brown, president of the Poynter Institute. Thank you for joining us. We meet tonight to celebrate journalism, straight, honest reporting that helps each of us participate in democracy and make meaningful decisions in our daily lives. Let's face it, even as we celebrate that ideal, we do so in a time of great frustration and hostility. We lament that people can't agree on facts. We are made uncomfortable by the vitriol, anger, and intense differences with our neighbors, our coworkers, and even our family members. We find ourselves in edgy confrontations with perfect strangers. COVID numbers are coming down, thankfully, and so we are all glad that we can start eating in restaurants again. But if you're like me, you also wonder, when can we start talking in restaurants again? And stop having to whisper out of fear that the people at the table nearby will offend us or be offended by us. Feuds about wearing masks or getting vaccinations, wild conspiracies about election fraud, cancel culture arguments, online hoaxes, and just plain meanness toward people. It all stokes distrust and pollutes our civic life. Quality journalism is absolutely essential to bridging these divides, a way to connect us with facts and shared experiences. Divided or not, we agree on this. Journalism helps citizens participate to their fullest. Craig Newmark, a philanthropist who supports journalism initiatives around the world, including Poynter's Newmark Ethics Center, often says, a trustworthy press is the immune system of democracy. Well, right now, American democracy is immunocompromised. The violent insurrection and attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th made that clear. Some among us have lost sight of the connection between our freedoms and access to reliable information that we can trust. Trust. That was the value proposition that Nelson Poynter offered his community with the St. Petersburg Times, now the Tampa Bay Times. It was a trusted source of information. To Mr. Poynter, the ingredients of that trust were local ownership, a commitment to accurate independent journalism, and excellent customer service for readers and advertisers. He was so committed to those values that he created a school that would help professional journalists live by them. When Mr. Poynter died, he left ownership of the Times to the Institute, rather than leave it to outsiders who might not be trusted to put excellence above profits. Each year, we celebrate Mr. Poynter's legacy and vision by presenting a medal in his name to a journalist of distinguished accomplishment and integrity. Previous winners are household names: Schieffer, Brokaw, Woodruff, Holt, Couric, and Wallace. Tonight we add another, a tough-minded journalist who continues to demand answers from the powerful in order to look out for us all. Tonight we honor Lesley Stahl of CBS News. We look forward to talking with Lesley in just a little while. Many of the stories and images in the Year in Review news video are painful. 2021 started out about as depressing as 2020. The knocking on the door by the insurrectionists at the Capitol is a haunting reminder not to take our freedom for granted. Tonight we will talk about how journalism and Poynter can help. We hope to stoke optimism and honor courage and resilience. Last year, Poynter trained some 60,000 journalists in the U.S. and around the world. Our leadership training has strengthened the work of women editors and media executives and hundreds of journalists of color. We trained at media companies as large as the Washington Post and small digital sites like 100 Days in Appalachia to grow their digital business and cover topics like addiction and domestic extremism. This year, we helped newsrooms improve their reporting on the census, policing in jails, race, and we taught the fundamentals of ethical storytelling. Poynter training is also used on hundreds of college campuses by students and professors. Poynter's diversity work reached more than 4,000 journalists to improve inclusiveness and to fight racist stereotypes in news stories and on the air. Broadcasters and publishers tell us their biggest industry challenge is recruiting and retaining journalists. Low wages, long hours, health risks from the pandemic, and online harassment are driving people out of the business. So media companies have turned to Poynter for training in trauma, stress, and resilience for their employees. One TV station in Portland, Oregon, even declared No News Monday and gave the entire newsroom staff the day off so it could attend Poynter's trauma workshop. In the battle against disinformation, Poynter's Pulitzer Prize-winning PolitiFact is among 92 fact-checkers worldwide who work every day to let Facebook users know when stories in their feeds may be false or phony. At our first ever United Facts of America Festival, we convened health experts like Dr. Anthony Fauci and journalists including Christiane Amanpour and reporters who are working on the Facebook files, all to drive dialogue about how to improve the quality of information on social media. Over the summer, PolitiFact tracked court filings and other records on 430 defendants arrested as part of the January 6th riot in order to explain how misinformation about the 2020 election fueled the violence. Last month, Poynter's International Fact-Checking Network brought together fact-checkers across 40 countries and 16 time zones to improve their skills at debunking false claims and hoaxes. Ultimately, we want citizens to have power over the information they receive. So Poynter's MediaWise continues to give people like you the tools to navigate the onslaught of information we get online or on the air, and to be responsible about sharing it with others. Our MediaWise posts have been seen by some 57 million people, and 700,000 seniors have taken some of our training. And I have a bit of a scoop for you. Later this month, we will announce that MediaWise has just been awarded a major grant to produce our training in Spanish. When we gathered last year, I talked about the calamitous effects of the pandemic on local news organizations. Thousands of reporters were laid off and some 70 newsrooms closed. Local news remains a really tough business. And yet the tenacity of journalists in neighborhoods all over the country is clear. Like the 19 employees at WWL Radio in New Orleans, who slept in their studio for a week to keep their community informed throughout Hurricane Ida. Or how about C.D. Davidson Hires, a young reporter at the Tallahassee Democrat who wrote about senior citizens struggling to get vaccination appointments. At the end of her story, she wrote, "If you have not heard anything by next week, call or text me. I will do my best to find answers for you. It's why I'm here." She wound up personally fielding more than 150 calls. It's why I'm here. Or the reporting by Kat McGrory and Neil Betty of the Tampa Bay Times, who exposed how a sheriff's department was profiling low-income residents, including school kids, and harassing them out of the belief that because they were struggling, they might someday become criminals. For that powerful investigation, our colleagues were awarded journalism's highest honor, the Pulitzer Prize. In a little while, we'll take you behind the scenes of another exceptional local news story by the Indianapolis Star, where courageous reporting led to actions that will protect children everywhere. So tonight we come together as true believers in the power of journalism to stand for facts, to stand for freedom of expression and civil conversation, to stand for tolerance, and to stand for journalism that strengthens democracy. Thanks for being with us tonight and for all you do to support Poynter.
Hi, I'm Jose Diaz-Balart, anchor at MSNBC, NBC Nightly News, and Noticias Telemundo. I'm also the newest ambassador of MediaWise at the Poynter Institute, and I support digital media literacy for all. That includes my fellow Spanish speakers who enjoy sharing information with their loved ones online. While 41 million people speak Spanish in the U.S., there aren't a lot of resources in our language to help us determine what is and what is not real on our favorite websites and apps. That's where MediaWise comes in. MediaWise designed a short course in Spanish with all the tips and tricks you need to tell fact from fiction online. The course is packed with tools you can use to avoid sharing harmful misinformation with your friends and family. They'll even walk you through some real-life examples of bad information that went viral on social media. Plus, it's super easy. You can go at your own pace. By the end of the course, you'll be part of the solution to help our country and our Spanish-speaking community overcome the misinformation crisis. ¿Me acompaña? I can't wait to get started.
Yes, indeed, Jose Diaz-Balart. I am with you 100%. All of you with us tonight can do your part to help Poynter ensure that citizens everywhere have access to quality information as we all head to the polls in 2022. Democracy is depending on it. We appreciate your generosity tonight. Speaking of, raffle tickets will only be available for another 5 minutes or until sold out. So far, several of the packages, the bourbon's gone. I believe also the very close to be gone is the Mazzaro's gone as well. Some chances to get, you got, of course, the fine wine from around the world. You've got, of course, the Cabernets from California also as well. Not to mention My Fair Lady from the Straz. All still available. There are only ever 50 tickets, so your odds are very good and only $50 a ticket. The lucky winner is out there somewhere. Could it be you? I mean, you only need one ticket to win, but you can't win without a ticket. I'll also announce our winners at the end of the program, so countless journalists and citizens like you have given support to Poynter because Poynter stands for journalism. Not only does journalism help keep us informed, but it also holds powerful people accountable for wrongdoings. Up next, Poynter takes us behind the scenes of an investigation done by local newsroom that still reverberates today, all the way up to our nation's capital. Let's take a look.
I've been investigating failures to report child sexual abuse in schools, and I was doing a broader story about why does this seem to keep happening, because there'd been a number of cases in Indiana in which school officials found out that another school official was having an inappropriate relationship with a student and yet didn't immediately report it to authorities as required by Indiana law. And so while I'm doing this story about why does this seem to keep happening, I had a source say, you really need to look at USA Gymnastics and how they handle these allegations.
My law firm ultimately was the firm that provided the tip to the Indianapolis Star, and that was a result of work we've been doing since 2008 or 7.
My husband had basically given up trying to do anything with trying to get more traction for what we knew were like piles of complaints against coaches. He's known about the cover-ups and everything that happens with the coaches just getting moved around if they get caught.
I've talked to the FBI in Milwaukee, Seattle. They've come to my office in Indianapolis. I've gone to the Southern District of New York. I've talked to their human trafficking division in DC. I have gone to the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department more times than I can count. Like, they do not care.
We had been working on some gymnastics cases with a lawyer in Georgia. He called us one morning and said, hey, you've got to get down to Georgia. USA Gymnastics just filed something and they forgot to seal it, and it's got all of the complaints in it. We were just about to leave the country, so neither of us could get down to Georgia to get it. And finally I just said, well, let me just text this reporter that I met from the Indy Star, who was Marissa.
So much of that day was just a scramble to figure out how do we get access to this information before it may not be public. Ultimately, what we found out was some of the records had already been sealed, but not all of them. We realized that there was no other way to get them quickly without me going there in person, that my editors approved me getting on a plane and flying to Georgia that same day. So when I flew to Georgia, I picked up almost 1,000 pages of records, and included in those records were pieces of depositions from current and former USA Gymnastics officials in which they described what their policy for handling child sexual abuse allegations was.
You are the president of USA Gymnastics. If you receive a complaint of sexual misconduct, do you turn it over to local authorities? No.
The next step was finding out the impact of that policy on the safety of kids in the sport.
We divided up maybe 100 to 150 coaches that we knew had been in trouble
with gymnastic coaches who had had sexual abuse cases against them. We found 4 coaches where we had definitive proof that they'd been reported to USA Gymnastics. USA Gymnastics had failed to take action, and these coaches went on to harm girls. From the next point, when we got to those 4 cases, we started talking to some of the survivors.
I'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking about an interview that I'd sat in on and think, most importantly, how do I tell this story in a sensitive, accurate manner that does respect to the issue at hand.
As athletes are gathering in Rio, a stunning report from the Indianapolis Star and USA Today network dominated this day.
Within hours, Rachel Den Hollander reached out.
I was the first person to come forward and publicly speak against Larry Nassar. When Indy Star released their report on the culture of abuse within USA Gymnastics, I knew immediately this is the time. It was the first time there was validation, and I knew I wasn't alone.
She felt she had an ally in our newspaper, in our organization, in the Indianapolis Star, in journalism. I still think about it. It's 5 years later, I still think about this story and how difficult it was for those women to come forward with their accounts of abuse, how it fractured their home lives, how it fractured their relationships, how it fractured their psyche going forward, how it changed them into different people.
We as a society need investigative journalists more than ever. Without that first Indianapolis Star story in August of 2016, without the story where Rachel came forward publicly shortly thereafter, he would still be practicing medicine, treating athletes and abusing kids.
I, too, was a victim. I didn't understand the magnitude of what all was happening until the Indianapolis Star published its article in the fall of 2016 entitled, "Former USA Gymnastics Doctor Accused of Abuse."
There's nobody else doing this kind of work. Nobody. That is our passion, is to tell stories of humanity, reveal injustice, right wrongs.
All these women come over and they're like, "You're my hero." It's like, no, you're the heroes. I'm just a reporter who's doing my job.
The media is the only chance for justice in America.
Journalism is essential to hold those systems to account.
I was lucky enough to attend trainings at Poynter several times earlier in my career. Continuing to build our skill sets is incredibly important, but also being able to connect with others in the industry who are equally passionate about the work that we do and are trying to continue to get better.
The service that Poynter provides is something that we desperately need as journalists.
Wow, what a compelling story, and further evidence of just how important local reporting and Poynter are to keeping communities like ours and the children in them safer. Tonight, we are reminded of the important role of journalism in our democracy, and we've witnessed how Poynter was there to help. Poynter helped journalists, and Poynter helped all of us. Now it's time for us to return the favour. Text Poynter to 72727 to purchase your tickets and donate. But right now, we're going to get right into what I call the bid from the heart. And in the bid from the heart, what we're doing is we're not going to be winning a fabulous bottle of wine or having the gorgeous nappers and so forth. What we're going to be doing is giving from the bottom of the heart, understanding just how valuable every single dollar is. I'm going to start at some high levels. I'm going to make my way down. And you don't have to wait for me. If you go to your device right now, you'll see that there's a donate button. Right where you just had the Instabuy, there's a donate button, and you can start adding your donation in there right now at whatever level you'd like. But what I'd like to do is start at what I consider a leadership level. Earlier tonight, you saw the toll of misinformation in taking on democracy, and we're most certainly going to be helping with that right now. Now is the opportunity to help Poynter be better armed in the fight against dangerous misinformation. You can be a huge part of that, of the solution right now. What I'm asking for someone out there who would like to start us off with $20,000. $20,000 will most certainly help us along that way. We've seen year after year, I've seen it myself personally with this incredible event, just how often people jump in at that type of level. Be able to help when it comes to journalism and helps Poynter get that message out there. What about $10,000? In just a few minutes, we'll ask tonight's guest of honor what it was like to be one of only women in journalists in 50 years ago. I mean, think about it. During the height of the pandemic, that lonely experience didn't seem too far away. This spring, unemployment, or employment, I should say, for women sunk to its lowest level since 1986, impacting most industries, including journalism. When women are left out, the stories that most affect them can and often do get overlooked. A $10,000 gift tonight will help Poynter support women in media and ensure that they are leading the charge as journalists is remade and remodeled in the years to come. A $10,000 gift can help all of us see ourselves reflected in the reporters, which leads to more trust in news and great opportunities for our journalists, women and people of colour included. Who's going to start at $12,000? I want to thank straight away, I've seen it going there. Brian Tierney, thank you so much for your $15,000. That is amazing. Don Graham and Amanda Bennett also jumping in there at $10,000. As I said, you don't have to wait for us. Any level that you want to give right now, you can do so. Please just go to the donate button on your device and do that as well. Andy Para and the Para Foundation as well. Thank you. Another $10,000. Every single dollar counts. Every single dollar has a purpose, and you most certainly will see that it goes through the night that we'll get to a level that you feel able, willing, and wanting to give. More diversity in the newsroom is just the start. Journalism is most impactful when journalists work with citizens like you to better serve audiences everywhere. This means identifying the issues that you care about and researching to bring you the best reporting possible. From understanding Title IX to improving coverage of LGBTQ communities and reporting on the census. Journalists depend on Poynter to help them sharpen their skills through training programs led by the industry's brightest minds. I'm looking for donors right now at $5,000. Who's going to join them? I've got a screen here on the set that's going to be helping me with that, but I want to go ahead right now. Judy Ginchaff, thank you so much. Unbelievable. And Stephen Grenbaum family, who's been leading there at $5,000. Who's going to join them at $5,000? All these names that you're seeing on the screen: Susan Betzer, Barry Alpert, thank you so much. Bridget Williams, thank you. Colleen Shepherd, thank you for your donation. Every level has a purpose. Every single level has a need, and we've seen it time after time, and we're looking for $5,000. We're trying to get to that $100,000 level, and I know you can help us do it. As Neil mentioned earlier, the bad information we see online is a global threat that affects people of all ages, backgrounds, and status. The list goes on. But Poynter has the tools we all need to be more critical consumers of information on the internet, and that goes for everyone. Teenagers, first-time voters, senior citizens, and maybe even your friends and neighbours or your own family members. If you know someone who could benefit from being empowered to be more critical consumers of information online, this is your chance to make a difference. I'm looking for donors right now at $2,500. I can see on the screen they're pouring in right now. Thank you so much for the come. I want to thank B2 Communications, thank you, at $2,500, thank you. Michael Silver and Diane Triplett, $2,500. Who is going to join them at $2,500? Paul Steger and Wendy Brandis, thank you so much for your $2,500. And Raymond James, again, another great contributor when it comes to $2,500. Again, Aaron Hanley, Joyce Hennessy, thank you so much. Susan Betzer, thank you for all your donations. We all know that we'd love to be able to give these higher amounts. It doesn't matter. Every single dollar counts. Every single dollar has a purpose. Now, while being faced with the biggest challenges in history, from civil rights to climate change, it's important to remember that the people who dedicate their careers to giving you quality news are just that, people. People who are reporting the top stories while navigating the reality behind the headlines. They're our neighbours, they're our family members, and they're our friends. They're working around the clock to meet deadlines for us so we can inform to go about our day making decisions based on facts. But they're burning out. The demands of the industry are taking on a major toll on journalists' physical and mental well-being. Understanding the risk that journalists face allows us to wholeheartedly realise the reward of high integrity reporting. Who's going to join in at $1,000? That's the sort of difference that you can make right now at $1,000. And again, you can see on the screen, we want to thank everybody that's coming in here. And I've got several of them right now that's coming in. Bob Heyman at $1,000. Thank you, Bob. That was amazing. Marty and Mark Petty, thank you for that contribution. Tom and Heidi Guru, thank you. Our very own Poynter Neil Brown and Galera Yish, thank you so much. Beth and Michael Vivio, also at $1,000. We can get to this 100,000, guys. Every dollar has a purpose. Revenue Management Solutions also jumping in there at $1,000. Look, if you're a business, if you want to put your name up there, I'll sing it from the rooftops because you deserve to be recognized because you're helping this whole purpose of this right now. Sandy Reef and Diane Egner coming in as well at $1,000. This is what it's about, people. Thank you so much. And I can always work backwards. You don't have to necessarily go to $1,000. You want to jump back up to $5,000 if you're considering your options. And that's what this is about. It's considering your options. We saw the importance of citizens having access to journalists earlier tonight. Imagine if the Indianapolis Star never exposed Larry Nassar's abuse and cover-ups at USCA, gymnastics and beyond. Without that solid line of trust and communication between the public and their local newsroom, we miss key details of stories that can tear lives apart. Local news is the backbone of our community. Your neighbourhood needs reporters bringing you news straight from the city, council sessions, school board meetings and more. $500 right now will help us do just that. That's what it's about, giving back to the community. You saw how incredible local reporting is. And I want to thank right now at $500 is coming in is Dr. Roy Peter Clark and Karen Clark. Thank you for lending us off at $500. Cheryl Carpenter, I can see, has also come in at $500. Thank you so much. Tiffany, can you show me on the screen? I've got a lot of people that jumped in previously at these sorts of levels at $500. Thank you when it comes to the ability to be able to help in there. I know that we had some previous donors earlier in the night. Again, you're seeing your name on the screen here. Jane and Craig, thank you so much. Beth and Michael Vivio, thank you. The Clarks, thank you for your donations. It's incredibly important when it comes to it, and an opportunity right there to be able to help. Great news. Now, I'm going to move now to the $250 level. We've got a very generous match that's gone on here. Al and Sandy Steinberg are going to go ahead and match the first 12 people that come in at the $250 match. That means, because at $250, you're talking about a PolitiFact fact check, and that's exactly what we're going to hear. So the first 12 people means we're going to get 24 fact checks in. Now, it may be hard to believe, but we're just a few weeks away from another midterm election year. And the stakes are higher than ever before. While candidates will be working to flip seats in the House and Senate, we'll need journalists to keep track of every campaign promise they make throughout the race. We're going to need independent, nonpartisan reporting to hold them accountable, so by the time Election Day comes around, we know exactly what we're voting for and why. $250 is going to make that difference right now. And I can ask you, Tiffany, to go ahead and bring them up here. Daniel Shard, thank you so much at $250. There's my first one. Satara Neves, thank you. Also $250. As I said, I want to use up every single one of the very generous donation of being able to go ahead and match this up right now. Elise, thank you so much for another $250. Carrie, thank you so much for your $250. Again, for the first 12 people that come in at $250, it is going to be matched. So that $250 becomes $500, and again, that's 2 fact checks that are done to your $250. An amazing opportunity right now. We got Kevin Kelso, thank you, at $250. This is amazing generosity, guys. We had some previous ones in there. Maria Reeve came in at $250 earlier. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Now, as I said, my hope is that we can use up every single one of the 12 that we had. And I believe we're close on that one right now, because I've also heard, and this just in, that they will do an additional 4. So for those of you out there, we've got 16 fact checks that will go ahead and be doubled. So if you donate $250 right now, it means we're going to go ahead and make that change right now. Because this is what it's all about. This is where we can go ahead and make a change. As I said, those of you out there that are donating, you don't have to wait for me, whatever level that you'd like to give. We've seen everything from $25 to $250 to $2,500. The choice is yours. As I said at the very beginning, I was going to start at some high levels and make my way down, and my genuine, sincere hope is that we're going to have every single person here that was going to be able to donate. Well, we've come down to the final level of giving. It's the $100. And at the $100, I'm going to play a little game. I'm going to be giving a prize to the person who donates $100 last. Now, as you know, in this area, we have some very serious sports fans out there watching tonight. How do I know this? Well, Tampa Bay isn't just home to the global non-profit leader in journalism, the Poynter Institute. That's true. But right down the street from Poynter is not 1, not 2, but 3 major champion sporting organisations. That's right. I'm talking about Tampa Bay. Home of the 2-time Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning, Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the AL East Division champion Tampa Bay Rays. And the best part, they're all champions for journalism too. In fact, they've teamed up to give us one of the most amazing experiences of a lifetime. So this is what you are playing for. You are playing for the person who donates $100 last, and I can see them already starting to pour in. You ready for this? You're going to go ahead and win 4 lower level tickets to the 21-22 Lightning game, and visit one of the people will go and visit the box, the press box at the Amalie Arena. That's also included. Now, if that wasn't impressive enough, the winner will also receive a suite to entertain 16 people. This is the prize for my $100 game at Tropicana Field to root on the Tampa Bay Rays during the 2022 season. And then they're also going to throw in a personalized Rays jersey as well. That's 2 or 3. The third one, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers legendary coach, Bruce Arians, has gone ahead, signed off on a deal too. He has autographed a Super Bowl football that the winner of this package can cherish for years. So you're getting everything. Let me tell you that the Rays package alone is valued at $2,600. Now, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to say going once, going twice, going 3 times, we are closed. If I go ahead and say your name and you're the last person before anyone interrupts me, you're going to win the prize. All you have to do right now, we're at the $100 level. Now, it's the minimum donation. If you want to do $250, $500, $1,000, $2,500, whatever you like to be in this game. But we're going to close this, and whoever I say closed on is going to win the prize. So I'm going to get everyone to refresh this screen because this is going to get a little bit frantic. Again, everything that I mentioned is included in the packet. So Chip Fletcher right now is my person at the top of the pile. You go ahead and hit that, and Chip's going to be out. Going once, going twice, going 3 times, and we are out. Jessica Navarro's in. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Kara Kamer's in. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Again, there's a slight delay when it comes to me saying and you going ahead and doing it. So go ahead and hit that button and go to the top of the screen. You are getting everything. You are getting the 4 tickets, lower level tickets to the Lightning. You're getting the suite for 16 people to the Rays with the personalized jersey and the signed football by our winning coach of the Super Bowl. Everything is included right now. Going once, Doris is in right now. Going once, going twice. Sherry is in right now. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. I will say there is a bit of a hold on the phone right now. Vanessa is in. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Sue has jumped back in. Sue, I just heard her scream. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. We've got Yolanda. Yolanda's in. Going once. Yay! Yolanda's in. Going once, going twice. Stephen is in. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Look, this is getting a bit too frantic. I'm going to give you right now a 30-second clock. I'm going to give you a 30-second clock. And at the end of this, we'll have the technology close it down. Whoever's at the top. Now, remember that every single time you hit that, it's obviously another $100 donation. But when you hit that, you go to the top of the pile. Right now, Conan is in there. Yolanda's back in. Sue's in there. Doris is in there. So when I hear the bell off to the side here, that means the game is officially closed. $100, you may only hit $100 once, but you know what it's like on eBay. You can be watching an item for 3 weeks, and the last 30 seconds, 55 people jump in. Don't let that happen. I'm not going to give you any more reference of time, only to say that it's going to be finishing very, very shortly. It's finished. It's finished. Now, we will officially name the winner of the last donor standing at the very tail end, along with the prizes for the basket. So, wow, what an amazing, you are absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for your generosity. This is going to make a massive difference. And as I said, look, if there's a level that I didn't mention that you would like to go ahead and add in there, you most certainly can do that at any stage. Thank you to all of our sponsors and event partners for helping make this evening a smashing success. There's someone else who'd like to make a toast tonight. Let's take a look.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Johnson, president of Hearst Newspapers. The Hearst organization is proud to be a presenting sponsor at tonight's gala. The generosity we just witnessed will elevate journalism for everyone who creates and consumes it. Thank you to each and every one of you who participated in the fundraising activities this evening. And to the woman of the hour, who we will hear from in a few minutes, Ms. Lesley Stahl. On behalf of the 700-plus journalists at Hearst Newspapers and the entire Hearst organization, thank you for dedicating your career to keeping us informed. For many years, we have watched you report on important and critical issues while giving a voice to the powerless and holding the powerful accountable. It is an honor to be in your company. Cheers.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and thank you to all of our sponsors this evening. It's so very humbling to see all of you give so generously to support Poynter. On behalf of everyone at Poynter and the journalists and citizens we serve, thank you. We will put this money to great use. The Poynter Medal for Lifetime Achievement recognizes the outstanding career of a journalist whose work has made a lasting impact serving democracy. A journalist who personifies our most cherished ideals, someone who is fair, accurate, independent, and tough. Tonight, we honor Lesley Stahl of CBS News. There is a moment when President Donald Trump abruptly ends his interview with Lesley Stahl last year because he didn't like her questions. As Trump gets up and ducks around the camera wires, Stahl looks at him calmly, no emotion, and in almost a spirit of kindness says, "Be careful." She is unflappable. For some 50 years in journalism, Lesley Stahl has done it all. Her passion is her pursuit of the story and her pursuit of the facts. Lesley was born in Lynn, Massachusetts. She studied history at Wheaton College and considered going to medical school because her mother wanted her to find not just a job, but a career. Instead of med school, she joined the speechwriting team of New York Mayor John Lindsay. She liked that gig, but she loved the energy of the City Hall press corps. So she applied at the New York Times and at UPI, but she was rejected. She eventually got work as a producer at a local TV station in Boston. In 1971, she was hired at CBS News among a group she often calls the Affirmative Action Babies. It was part of a diversity push that also launched the careers of Connie Chung and Bernie Shaw. When she got the job at CBS, her news director advised her not to smile when she was on the air, because he said it was important for reporters to seem serious and not amusing. As a CBS rookie, Lesley established her reporting chops when, in the summer of 1972, she was assigned to cover a break-in at the Democratic Party offices at the Watergate. Her bosses thought it was nothing more than a two-bit burglary, but Stahl followed the story relentlessly, developing her own scoops. She would follow that story all the way to Richard Nixon's resignation. During that time, she met Aaron Latham, a writer and journalist also covering Watergate. They would soon be married, and Lesley once said that the early days of their marriage were awkward because, quote, we didn't know what to talk about because our whole relationship was based on Nixon. They have been married now for 44 years. Lesley became the first woman to be chief White House correspondent for CBS News, covering the Carter and Reagan administrations. For much of that time, she was also the moderator of Face the Nation, interviewing world leaders such as Margaret Thatcher and Boris Yeltsin. In 1991, with the strong backing of Mike Wallace, Lesley joined the legendary CBS News magazine, 60 Minutes. She is now in her 30th season. Her award-winning work includes reports on torture used against suspected terrorists. She has reported on the costs and failures of the U.S. war in Iraq. She has reported on cancer and on gospel music bringing hope and joy to teenagers in Harlem. Lesley has profiled top CEOs, including a 20-something billionaire named Mark Zuckerberg. Earlier this year, she interviewed Congresswoman Liz Cheney about her break with the Republicans over the Capitol riots. That piece also yielded Cheney's first public regret about opposing same-sex marriage, including that of her sister Mary Cheney. Lesley Stahl is one of America's most honored journalists. She has won 13 Emmys, including one for Lifetime Achievement. She has received the DuPont Columbia Silver Baton and Overseas Press Club Awards. And I'm just scratching the surface. Lesley has authored 2 books, including a bestseller on her passion away from journalism, her grandchildren Jordan and Chloe. The book is called Becoming Grandma, and it explores the joys and science of grandparenting. Lesley Stahl believes in relentless reporting. She is dedicated to storytelling based on facts. She believes in journalism and the importance of asking tough questions. Please take a look.
"60 Minutes, Lesley Stahl."
I always wanted to be a tough reporter. Wow, look what I get to do. It's extraordinary. I'm just so proud that I work at an institution that upholds all the values that journalists should.
Lesley Stahl, CBS News on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, that's when I was just beginning my career.
Lesley Stahl, CBS News, Washington.
I covered Watergate, and so I was involved. And months and months and months later, I was a White House correspondent.
How do you think you got into this big mess?
The public will have to judge how big a mess it is.
Lesley?
What would you like to say to the single working mother about how she cannot provide medical care for her children or feed them with food stamps?
From CBS News, Washington.
Welcome to Face the Nation. I'm Lesley Stahl.
I did live television on Face the Nation for 8 years.
With us, Senator Joseph Biden of Delaware. Senator Biden, welcome to Face the Nation.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
The live television is all that. Everything rests on exactly what's said.
I'm bombarded Big Boy with all my suggestions.
Big Boy?
Well, Dad, of course.
You don't call him Big
No,
Boy.
no.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
So I think that experience contributes to my sense that I don't always panic. I almost never panic.
So, this is my very last Face the Nation.
I realized that 60 Minutes was a place that any broadcast journalist would kill to work at.
And I'll see you on 60 Minutes. I'm Lesley Stahl. I'm Lesley Stahl. I'm Lesley Stahl. Okay, ready? Ready? We rolling? You ready?
Maybe.
I had a lot of interviewing experience, but Mr. Trump was Mr. Trump. Feisty. Are you ready for some tough questions?
You're going to be fair.
I'm going to be fair.
Just be fair.
Why do you want to be president again?
Because we've done a great job. We created the greatest economy in the history of our country.
You know that's not true.
It is totally true.
No. If someone's fighting back, what you want is to have a tennis match.
We got hit from something that came out of China.
What are you saying about
what
that?
I'm saying is we got hit,
know, but what are
and
you
we've
gonna...
done a great job.
Sir, excuse me, cases are up.
You just come in here with that negative attitude.
I didn't want to have this kind of angry...
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Well, your first question was, this is going to be tough questions. Well, your first statement
You're
was...
president. Don't you think you should be accountable to the American people?
Okay, that's enough. I'll see you in a little while. Thanks.
This is a dramatic moment. It's going to make our story. And if he doesn't come back, that's okay, because we have this. I've got a lot of questions I didn't ask.
Okay, let me understand this.
Tell us how it happened.
He called you. That doesn't sound good.
The questions keep coming.
Did it work?
Did you make mistakes?
Did you panic? That's an excellent question.
Look at this. Look at this.
Look at this.
Everywhere you look, you want to ask, what's this?
What's this?
What is this?
What's this meeting about?
Now, this meeting is our Democratic caucus.
People say Nancy Pelosi is tough as nails.
I'm very strong. I don't know tough, but
Have you seen the really bad schools?
I've not intentionally visited schools that are underperforming.
Maybe you should.
Maybe I should, yes.
Did you go to church? Did you go to Mass?
Every morning.
Every morning?
Every morning.
John McCain, I had to ask him about cancer. Did they mention glioblastoma to you?
It's very serious.
He didn't want to go there. He wants to live his life, so he wants to push it away. And there I was, trying to get it out of him. And that was very hard for me.
And Lesley, I have had the best life that anyone I've ever known has ever had. So.
We do stories that a lot of people say, I'm not interested in that. And then they watch and they say, wow. Vladimir Putin's main political rival is recovering from an assassination attempt by poisoning. You think that Mr. Putin's responsible?
I don't think, I'm sure that he's responsible.
I'm the chief of the Minneapolis Police Department.
Officer Chauvin's demeanor, he was just, it seemed, so confident that he was going to get away with this.
Well, whatever he might have expected, he did not receive that from me.
I am the wimpiest person that ever lived, and all the daredevil things I've done.
This tunnel is 3,850 years old.
I remember being down in a cave.
And you can see where the machine started actually turning into the rock.
And I thought to myself, I can't believe they pay me to do this. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant.
It's a challenge that we've never had before.
The melted cores are about 70 feet that way.
70 feet from here is the melted core?
Correct.
Wow. Instead of covering the pandemic, I was one of the more than 1 million Americans who did become part of it. I went to the hospital. We owe them our gratitude, our admiration, and in some cases, our lives.
It's good to see you, Lesley.
When I first met Rex, he was a little boy. He was blind. He couldn't even button his own shirt.
Lesley?
Yes? He couldn't learn how to tie his laces. And yet, when he sat down at the piano, in all the years I've known Rex, I never thought he'd be able to sit at the piano with me and play an improvised duet, much less enjoy it.
That was wonderful, Lesley.
Those are enormous highlights.
I'll give you a big hug goodbye.
It's just been, for me, because of this job.
Goodbye.
I've had a great life.
Friends, it is my honor to present Lesley Stahl with the Poynter Medal for Lifetime Achievement.
Thank you. Should I put my medal on?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, I can't wait. It's beautiful.
Well,
thank you.
I'm so glad you like it.
Thank you. I love it. It's magnificent. Thank you. There's nothing more wonderful than being recognized by your peers. So.
Well, we're so great, even for the wimpiest person in the world. What are you talking about, wimpy? Come on.
I am. You know, when you're in the middle of something, you never sense the danger. You're in the eye of the hurricane. And I've come home and I've looked at myself, you know, wearing espadrilles in a war zone. And I thought to myself, you're insane.
Well, as we talked about earlier in a conversation earlier, there's a lot of local journalists who are in hurricanes actually, and working really hard to get people information like you did, inspired by you. So we're so grateful to you, Lesley, for all the work you've done going forward.
This is thrilling.
So
thank you so much. I
So,
just want to mention
please.
that Warren Lustig, who's the brilliant 60 Minutes editor put that reel together. It's wow, because
It's crackerjack.
my whole life.
Absolutely.
It's stunning.
That's a good.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, Warren. So do you start every interview with, I'm going to ask you some tough questions, or was that just reserved for this particular
Well,
subject?
it was my 4th interview with him, with President Trump, and he always seemed to enjoy the combat. All the producers who were with us all agreed over the 4 interviews that he seemed to have fun. And he would always say when it was over, when these 3 before that were over, that was fun. That was a great time. And so I was kind of alluding to the earlier interviews. But he came in a bad mood that day.
How did you tell that?
It was obvious. In the 3 times before, there was banter. He would engage with the crew. This time he just came in, sat down. He was sour. He wanted to get on with it.
Did you expect him to walk out, or was that a surprise?
Oh, total surprise. Complete surprise. And it didn't come on a particularly difficult question. It just sort of came as if, in a way, he thought, gee, this isn't going well for me. And,
well,
I've had it.
It's an interesting point, because obviously one of the great strengths, you're a straight shooting reporter, is, in a sense, you were live fact checking the President of the United States. Now, do you do that for all subjects, or was it just for him because of his history? What was your thinking going into that interview?
Yeah, that was an unusual preparation, because we had decided ahead of time that we were going to do the fact checking in real time instead of having to break the interview every now and then to say, well, here are the real facts. So we prepared. I was prepared. I was in these war game situations, and we went and looked at some of his past statements and educated me. So I was ready for it.
You were ready for it. But did you expect him to walk out? Do you think it was all contrived on his part, or he's just more reflexive?
I think he just was fed up, and not over one particular question. He figured out that we were calling him often, and he just didn't want to continue, period. And I did have a lot of questions I didn't get to, and a lot of people on the team were disappointed because we never got to foreign policy, never got to the budget, lots of things, huge chunks of information we didn't get to ask him about.
It's funny, in an early conversation you mentioned that often the news is often made when the subject gets up and walks out, as opposed to your question, right? So it's like they're writing the script for you almost, huh?
Yeah. Oh, when they walk out, and he's not the first one to walk out on me, you know instantly you have a good story, because they walked out.
There you go. There's news.
There you go.
Let's go back to the
And it often says something about their character too, because as I did say to the president, part of your job is to be accountable and to answer these questions. It's part of what you took on, and not to be willing to do that is sending some kind of a message.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up in a sense, because there is this sort of confrontational situation that frankly isn't as new as we sometimes paint it. I recall looking at an interview that you did with Margaret Thatcher, or you talked about.
Oh, wow.
Where she complained about tough questions, and then I think she had a quote, I'm not going to get it exact, but it was something like, you said, "Why do I love your country better than you do?"
She did.
That was back in the, in the 1980s. So the question, or 1990s, but in any event, the question is, how do we do interviews these days with figures who are committed to turning us into an adversary when we don't necessarily mean to be?
I don't think that's new. I think that's been there with politicians and CEOs. It's an old story. We're the messenger, and they don't like being called. They don't like being challenged, particularly people in power, particularly men in power. They're not used to it. They're not hearing it from their staffs. They're not hearing it from their peers. And all of a sudden, who does she think she is comes along.
Wow.
And this is, as I say, has been something throughout my career. that I've seen. So it's not new by any means.
So well, let's go back to the beginning of that career when you became the first woman White House correspondent for CBS News. How did people treat you back then? And who were the ones who totally supported the concept, and who were the ones who gave you a ton of grief? And this is a night to name names.
Well, I will tell you an observation of mine from back then, and that is that the Democratic presidents gave the press a more difficult time.
Really?
And my theory is that the Democrats assumed that the press was on their side. And if we were tough, it was a betrayal. They felt that. The Republicans did not expect anything but toughness. And they were more, this is my experience, they were more professional with us because they didn't feel that we were in their family and that we were abusing, Uncle Joe or Uncle Donald.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who did you learn from back in those days? Who were the ones you respected, both men or women, that sort of really took you under their wing and where you modeled yourself?
No one took me under their wing. There wasn't a mentor. But I remember wanting to be like Dan Rather. Dan Rather was tough. He was beaten up. My God, the Nixon White House and then the Bush people really went after him, and he was like a guy in the hurricane, which I think is how he started his career. And the wind is coming, and he just stood there, and I thought, gee, I want to be like that.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, you've mentioned mentoring. I know you've mentored, I believe, Susan Zirinsky, who is the president of CBS News. What's your take as a pioneer among women in journalism as to the state of affairs today? Do you think we're past the sexism that reigned in your day?
Well, no one thinks they're a pioneer, so I'm not a pioneer.
All right, well.
Yeah, I'm really always so surprised and almost hurt, that there is still sexism. And we see it with sexual harassment and actual abuse. I just can't believe that after 50 years, when I started, the women's rights movement was in full force, Gloria Steinem and all those women. And we're still fighting the fight after 50 years. It's just an astonishment. In journalism, however, women, I think, are doing extremely well. We are at every level. You mentioned Susan Zirinsky. She was president of CBS News, right through that glass ceiling, right to even beyond. You see women covering every kind of beat there is, the Pentagon, everything. Turn on television, there are women everywhere. So I think we are doing well. And the idea that we're still taking any kind of guff or abuse is just shocking to me, really.
Let's talk a little bit about 60 Minutes. 30th season, congratulations. I don't know, was Mike Wallace on that long? He probably was, but...
Oh, I'm sure he was.
Well, probably.
He was there on day one. He was reporting into his 90s.
So, it's interesting. I saw a number the other day that says 60 Minutes is continuing to grow audience, including among young people. So here's this most enduring... Well, here's this most enduring of shows, journalism news magazines. Why do you think 60 Minutes has done so well? And what is the future for 60 Minutes and for you?
Well, I've thought about why we continue to do well. And one of the reasons, not the only, is that we do it the same old way. We do it, that damn clock is still ticking, the same tick, tick, tick. We're spending the same amount of time that we've always spent on our stories. They look the same because we go out with the same number of people in the crews. We travel. We spend a lot of time on our stories, and you can tell. And I just think there's trust, and people talk about trust We've lost it for our institutions. And there's something to be said, I think, for continuity. It does inspire trust. I think younger people come to us because we do every kind of story there is. We do sports. We do a lot of business stories. We do tech. And every week, the stories are very varied. We have a hard story. We might have a story on a social issue. And very often, we do sports or movie stars or something that you might call the back of the book as a third story. Kids start watching 60 Minutes with their parents. You know, we don't poll the young kids. They're never polled when they say we had an audience of 34, million. Well, it's probably 64 million because the little kids aren't counted. And so they grow up with it. And when they go off on their own, suddenly they're counted. But anyway, I do think the sense of continuity and the serious journalism we do is the reason.
Well, you brought up trust, which is such an ongoing conversation in the world of journalism, democracy. So, we focused a little bit on the Trump interview, but you had a great interview with Congresswoman Liz Cheney recently. And your friend Andrea Mitchell called it exceptional, in fact, in part not because of the effort on the riots, which was obviously very important, but because in the interview with you, she came out and said that she regretted opposing her sister's same-sex marriage, and that was you broke news in a news magazine, which is terrific. How do you get that out of somebody like that?
I had the impression she wanted the question. I mean, I didn't know she wanted the question, and I was really surprised. But I did have the impression when it came out that she was hoping that she could say this publicly, because I think she hurt her sister, and she wanted to make amends in front of everybody.
Right.
So there wasn't much drawing it out of her. And it was a question that had to be asked. It had to be asked. And I was thrown back. I couldn't talk. I just sat there.
Yeah. No. I mean, you look genuine.
It was that emotional too.
Well,
I could feel her eyes actually glistened. You couldn't tell that on television, but in the room you saw it. So, yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful credit to the journalist and the concept of trust, even between the sources and the interviewer. Now, another thing that came out of that interview, which is the challenge for all of us at Poynter in the world of journalism, is you asked her a question of this is what you said to her, something like this: what do you do when people won't accept facts? Right? She's trying to argue about the Capitol riots, and this is a challenge for journalists, for politicians. So what's your sense, Lesley, about what should we as journalism do if our audience won't accept facts?
Put your head down, do your story, do your work, do your story as best as you can. Know that you have been honest. Know that you have double-checked and triple-checked if they give you time to do that. And wake up tomorrow, do it all over again. There's nothing you can do. We're in a horrible phase. I read a book the other day, or I read about a book the other day, to be more honest about it, by Samuel Huntington, who was a political scientist at Harvard. And he said that our country goes through a certain kind of upheaval every third generation. And he described the upheaval exactly to a T, what we're going through, including the problem with journalists, including the public's distrust of institutions. The language that he used so precisely fits this moment that it's almost stunning. And he predicted we would go through one of these moments of upheaval in the second decade of the 21st century.
Whoa. Did he have any lottery numbers?
It gives me hope. It gives me hope because he's saying it's cyclical. And we've been here before. And so you can only hope and pray that we're just in some kind of cycle and we will come out of it. So let's be hopeful.
Optimism is always a much better posture, I would say.
I'll go with that.
Speaking of optimism, we saw in that video you were playing the piano with young Rex. It's amazing. Are you still playing, and is that something that's part of your life? I mean, journalists are constantly looking for balance. You clearly play the piano. Do you still play?
I love the piano, but I'm going to have everybody weep for me. I fell down a flight of stairs and I broke my hand.
Ay, ay, ay.
And it's my right hand. And playing with 4 fingers is not quite the same, but I still play because I need it almost. Yeah, I love to play. Yeah, I'm not very good. I've never been very good, but it just gives me something.
I don't know. Look pretty sharp on that video.
Well, that was before.
Well, back in the day. Well, you talk about different kinds of things that sort of bring balance. So you wrote a book about your experience as a grandma.
Yes.
And your grandchildren and your daughter. Well, talk about what made you do. What suggested that as an idea, and what did you learn out of that experience?
Oh, I learned a lot. I learned about the chemistry of being a grandparent. The anthropology.
Chemistry.
Biochemistry. What happens when
okay.
a grandmother holds her grandchild and a grandfather as well, by the way. I learned a lot. But it's not intellectual being a grandparent. It's all emotional, and it's deep and wonderful. I had written a book before, and I loved writing it. I was always looking for another book to write. And I knew I could not write about 60 Minutes because I knew it. If I told the truth, I'd be fired. And if I didn't tell the truth, someone would catch me and my career would be over either way. So just stay away from it. And somebody, David Rosenthal, an editor, came to me with the idea. And my first reaction was, no, that's ridiculous. And then I just sat with it, and it felt more and more and more appealing. And I loved writing it.
Well, how did your daughter Taylor and the grandkids take it? Did they like the story? I mean, you were not willing to tell the truth about 60 Minutes, but you were about your grandkids. Tell me how that works.
There's no downside to those kids, believe me. I showed it to my daughter, and I said, if there's anything in here that you feel shouldn't be in here, let me know. And she didn't take out anything. So off it went.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, I hope they're all doing well. Speaking of doing well, it was mentioned in the reel, you had COVID.
I had COVID.
Has that, first of all, you okay? Everything, no long
I'm
effects?
fine. Completely recovered.
That's great. A very moving moment with the healthcare workers in this
I'll tell you something about the healthcare workers. My husband and I both got COVID at the same time. He had a mild case, but there was a nurse who was taking care of us. And when I came home from the hospital, she said that he and I were her first patients who hadn't died.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I know. Just took my whole insides and dropped them down to my feet.
Well, you had it in the very early stages of the early timeline of the pandemic.
Yes.
Could you imagine we'd still be talking about it today?
Never. Well, we thought we were finished with it, and then Mr. Delta came along. So,
right.
Yeah. But in New York, where I am, there's this great sense out on the street of being born again. You're walking around. We're having lunch and dinner at restaurants outside. That's really fun, by the way. And stores are opening up, and restaurants that closed are seeing new restaurants come in. So it's like springtime. There's just a sense of rebirth. It's lovely.
Rebirth indeed. So I'm going to ask you one final question, and thank you for this inspiring conversation and your inspiring career. So we've got journalists watching forever. They're having a hard time. They're also doing really important work. What's your advice for those getting into business or those who are in it about how to make a difference?
Wow. It's not the first time I've been asked, what's the advice question? And I always say two things. I say read, and then read some more. So that's one. And two, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. It's the most wonderful profession. No question about it. It's important. You can feel a sense of idealism if you're in it. And it's so fun. It's just so fun. And you meet the top people in whatever field it is that you're doing your story on. Let's say it's medicine. You're going to go to a top physician and you're going to ask really important questions, whatever the story is. So the last thing is you're constantly being educated. Now, I don't know about everybody listening, but I like that. I like that I can keep learning. So it's a joy. It's a joy to be allowed to be a reporter.
Well, when you walk and talk about joy, nothing says it more than Lesley Stahl and your great career. Thanks for supporting Poynter. Thanks for receiving this medal, which is so well deserved. And
I thank you so much. Treasure.
We're going to keep working it in your name. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Neil, and congratulations, Lesley. I think it's time to announce the winners of tonight's raffle prizes. Poynter Gala guests, can we get a drum roll, please? I've got the hot little list right here, okay? The winner of the bourbon basket is Roger Key. Well done, Roger. Roger's become very, very popular. Now, the winner of the California Cabs basket is Brian Fuhrer. Well done, Brian. I hear Brian say, did he say my name? Yes, I said your name, Brian. You won. We're then going to the winner of the International Wine Collection is Alita Fisher. Man, Alita, you're going to get a lot of invitations for dinners coming up. People say, just bring a bottle of wine, Alita. And of course, a great thanks to you, Lucan Wine and Spirits, for their incredible generous donations of these baskets, Lucan Wines. So great news for all the Poynter Gala guests. Next week, you'll receive an email with a special discount code for a purchase from Lucan Wine and Spirits. You can even order online, stock up on your holiday libations, and save. And the winner of the $100 gift card, the very first item that sold out, is Deborah Jackson. Mazzaro's. Come on. I love Mazzaro's. We appreciate your delectable selections for the Gala boxes as well, for our sponsors and VIP guests, and for your donation of the certificate. Grazie. Thank you very much. And finally, the winner going to the open night of My Fair Lady is Susan Roberts. Well done, Susan. Now, another announcement that I also need to make right now is, of course, the winner of the last donor standing at $100. And I've got that here as well. But again, it was furious. It was fast. A lot of people jumped in there. But the final person who went in there was Mel Growl. Well done, Mel. Congratulations, all those prizes. Great thanks to you, to the Straz Centre for the generous donation, to everyone who did it. And of course, congratulations to every raffle winner and for everyone contributing. The Poynter team will be touching base with you to ship your prizes. May you enjoy it when you continue your celebration of reliable, quality journalism. And with that, what a celebration it has been. A fantastic evening indeed. Thank you for supporting the Poynter Institute. Good night. And may all your news be good. Good night.
Hello, I'm John Katzman-Keepers, and I'm proud to support the Poynter Institute and to be a sponsor tonight. Congratulations to Lesley Stahl, who has worked all her life to get the truth out. I bought WABC Radio last year. Why? Because we wanted to get the truth out. With the truth in journalism, we took WABC from number 25 to number 3. We are in the process of redefining AM radio. We have started a new channel called WABCRadio.tv, where we'll have our own television channel. And this is talking about the future. It's going to be about internet. It's going to be about satellite. Another one of our projects in St. Pete is a tower in St. Pete, the tallest condominium tower on the west coast of Florida, with an observation deck for people to go up there and fall in love. It's a $400 million project. All I can tell New Yorkers is come on down. Congratulations again to Lesley Stahl and the Poynter Institute for getting the truth out. Cheers.